Chapter 5, The Trap is Set. Rome was eerily quiet as Marcus Vitali walked through the narrow streets of the city's ancient district. It was past midnight, and the usual buzz of nightlife had faded into an unsettling stillness. The only sounds were the faint hum of distant traffic and the occasional clink of glass from a late-night cafe. But there was a different kind of tension in the air tonight, one that Marcus couldn't shake. The city felt like a coiled spring, ready to snap at any moment. He kept his head down, his hands buried in the pockets of his dark coat, moving with a purpose. Leah's message had been cryptic, but he knew better than to ask too many questions. She had agreed to meet him again, though this time, it was different. Her tone had been urgent, almost frantic when she had called him. Something had changed, and Marcus could sense the danger creeping closer with every passing hour. Nero Ferraro was closing in on the resistance, and Marcus knew Leah's time was running out. He had done everything he could to warn her, to give her the information she needed to escape the city before it was too late. But Leah wasn't the type to run. She was a fighter, and that worried him. He had spent the past week gathering intel, using his contacts within the government to stay one step ahead of Nero's forces. But even with all his resources, Marcus knew it was only a matter of time before Nero struck. And when he did, there would be no turning back. Marcus turned a corner, his eyes scanning the dark alleyways that branched off from the main street. He was nearing the meeting point, a small, hidden cafe in the Trastevere district. It was one of Leah's safe places, where the resistance often met under the radar. But tonight, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. He glanced over his shoulder, his senses on high alert. The shadows seemed to move with him, dark and menacing, as if the city was conspiring against him. He quickened his pace, his heart pounding in his chest. Leah was in danger. He could feel it. The door was slightly ajar when he arrived at the cafe, and Marcus's gut tightened. Something wasn't right. He pushed the door open slowly, stepping into the dimly lit room. The cafe was empty, save for one figure sitting at a table in the far corner. It was Leah. She looked up as he entered, her expression grim, her body tense. She wasn't alone. Across from her sat Peter Sarto, the man Marcus knew only from whispers, a leader in the resistance and one of the most dangerous men in Rome. Marcus hesitated momentarily, his instincts screaming to turn around and leave. But it was too late. He was already in the trap. "Marcus," Leah said softly, her voice tinged with regret. "We need to talk." He took a few steps closer, his eyes darting between Leah and Peter. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice low and cautious. Peter leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms over his chest. "We've got a problem, Vitali," he said, his tone cold and authoritative. "And it has everything to do with you." Marcus's heart raced as he tried to piece together what was happening. He had come here to help, to warn Leah about the imminent danger. But now, as he stood before them, he realized he was in danger. "What are you talking about?" Marcus asked, his eyes narrowing. Peter's gaze hardened, and Marcus saw the total weight of the man's anger for the first time. "You've been working with Nero's people," Peter said, his voice laced with accusation. "You've been feeding them information about the resistance." Marcus's blood ran cold. "That's not true," he said quickly. "I would never." "You think we don't know?" Peter cut him off, his voice rising. "We have contacts inside the regime, too, Vitali. We know what you've been up to. You've been playing both sides to keep your empire intact while we fight for our lives." Marcus felt the walls closing in on him, the weight of Peter's words pressing down on his chest. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He had been trying to help, to warn them about Nero's plans. But now, it seemed, they thought he was the enemy.